All rise. The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Good morning. Madam Court Officer, can you please call the case?
Good morning, Your Honours. This is case KSC BC 2020-05, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Salih Mustafa.
Thank you. First of all, I will call appearances. Mr. Prosecutor, can you tell us who's present for the SPO?
Good morning, Your Honours. Today, appearing for the SPO are Silvia D'Ascoli, Associate Prosecutor, Julie Mann, Case Manager, Ari Vilotta, Legal Intern, and myself, Filippo De Minicis, Associate Prosecutor.
Thank you. Victims' Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honours, and good morning, everybody. The participating victims are today represented by Marie-Pierre Barbeau as co-counsel and by myself, Annie Poos, as counsel.
Thank you. Defense Counsel, you have the floor. Very well. Mr. Mustafa, can you hear us? Can you hear me fine?
Yes, Your Honor.
That you are appearing in front of trial panel 1. Today we will hear the testimony of SPO witness 4484, Mr. Seji Veseli. Madam Court Usher, can we please usher the witness into the courtroom? Defense Counsel, I see you standing.
I think it's 4844.
And did I say something else?
4484, just for the record, Your Honor.
Okay. Let me check that. My intention was to say 4484.
And that's the correct number, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. Very well. Please have a seat. Mr. Veseli, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank
you.
And welcome to the Specialist Chambers. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, I can. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Veseli, today we will start with your testimony. You are called to testify before the Specialist Chambers in the case of the Specialist Prosecutor against Mr. Salih Mustafa in order to help the panel to reach a verdict. First, I will ask you to take your solemn declaration to tell the truth, and after that you will be asked questions by the lawyers for the prosecution, for the victims participating in the procedures. Okay, and by the lawyers for the defense counsel. and in the end by us, the judges. I would like to provide you some guidance, Mr. Vaseli, for answering the questions that you will be asked. Mr. Vaseli, please listen carefully to each question, and if you don't understand, feel free to ask for the question to be repeated. Yeah? We want you to tell the truth and to tell us what you saw, what you heard, what you sensed, what you experienced. If you did not see or hear it yourself, please explain, you should say so, and you should explain how you came to know about it. You may not remember the details of all the events, and this is perfectly fine. Please testify on what you remember and don't try to make things up. And there's nothing wrong in saying, I don't know, I don't remember. Have you understood all this, Mr. Vaseli?
Yes, I have.
I would like to give you some practical advice for your testimony. Everything that we say here is translated and recorded. So it is important that you speak into the microphone in front of you, that you speak at a slow pace, and that you speak clearly. And that will allow the interpreters to translate everything. You should only start speaking when the person asking you a question has finished. When a question is asked, please count in your head up till 5 and then give an answer. And this pause of 5 seconds will give us the possibility to properly hear, translate and record what you are saying. If you have any questions, if you need a break, just raise your hands and I will give you the floor and you can express your need. Have you also understood all this, Mr. Vaseli?
Yes, I have.
As I will do with every witness, I will now ask you to read your solemn declaration to tell the truth. And I have to remind you that it is an offense within the jurisdiction of the specialist chambers to give a false testimony. Yes? Madame Court Usher, could you please assist Mr. Vaseli with his solemn declaration to tell the truth?
Excellent.
You may stand, but you must...
Your Honours, I'm standing to take my oath. I'm not taking it while seated. Conscious of the significance of my testimony and my legal responsibility, I solemnly declare that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that I shall not withhold anything which has come to my knowledge.
You are now under oath to tell the truth.
Can I sit?
And please, we have to wait for each other when talking. So when I'm saying something, please don't speak through it for reasons that the translation booth has to do its work properly. Okay, let me remind everybody that this hearing is held in open session unless otherwise requested by the parties, the Victims' Council, or decided by the panel. We should be careful not to disclose any confidential information, and in this regard, I ask you to give me prior notice if you would like to go into closed or private session for the purposes of your questioning or to make any submissions. Yes, now we can begin with the testimony of Mr. Vaseli by the SPO. Mr. Prosecutor, please inform the panel if you think you will be needing more or less time than the time you have shared with us, and that is the 4 hours.
Your Honor, thank you. I believe, perhaps belatedly, but on Monday, yesterday, we emailed the court revising our estimates to 2 hours. But perhaps the message hasn't reached Your Honor, so then it's my fault.
It's not about faults in this case. Thank you for informing us now, and we will proceed accordingly.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Veseli. My name is Filippo Dominicis. I'll be representing the SPO today here. We met briefly yesterday. And can we start, please? Could you please state your name and surname for the record?
My name is Salih Recep Veseli. Born on January the 1st, 1949 in Golapa village, Besianco municipality.
Mr. Veseli, during the conflict in 1998 and 1999, were you ever a member of the Kosovo Liberation Army?
First of all, I do not call it a conflict, I call it a National Liberation War, which was imposed on us. It was imposed on us, we never wanted it ourselves. Otherwise, I was a member and proud to be so, and and I'm ready to be so again, should the need arise.
Could you tell the court when, around what time, you joined the KLA?
I arrived from Tirana on the 25th of December 1998.
And would that be the date that you joined the ranks of the KLA?
That's right. An active member. Otherwise, I worked for the KLA since its foundation.
In which area of Kosovo did you join the KLA?
In the Galap zone, on the old name for it is Golak.
Is there any particular reason that you joined the ranks of the KLA in that area?
First and foremost, it's where I was born, and there was also one of my jailmates there. The two of us had been convicted by the Serbian regime and suffered together.
Who was this friend of yours who was there in the area?
Fatmir Sopi. We were co-convicts. We were convicted on political motives, both of us.
Now, did you, when you joined the KLA in the Golak area, did you come to join any particular unit of the KLA?
I waited in the beginning. You can't impose membership on someone, but I was there since the Brigade 153 was being set up on the 20th of February 1999 is when I put on the uniform and became a formal member.
So okay, thank you for that. You told us that you arrived in 1998, and that was in December 1998 from Tirana. Yeah.
25th of December.
And then, at that time, you already took the first steps to join the Kosovo Liberation Army upon your arrival?
Activist?
I put on the uniform formally when I arrived in Golak, because otherwise I was one of the organizers and original founders of the movement.
Thank you. And so the day when you put the uniform on, would that be the 20th of February 1999, when Brigade 153 was formed?
Yes. It was founded, however, to be fully established, it takes some time for a big brigade. However, it was founded, it was born, as it were, just like a baby on the 20th of February.
What was your role within Brigade 153?
I was the deputy commander of this brigade.
As deputy commander, what were your, could you tell the court what your functions and your role were?
My main role consisted in preparing the regulations for the brigade. It was in the process of being formed, and there can be no organization without regulations. So my main task consisted in drafting the regulations for all the units of Brigade 153.
So you were the deputy commander. Could you tell the panel who was the commander when the brigade was founded?
Initially it was vacant. It was pending the arrival of a commander from Tirana, Mr. Adem Shehu, a military man who quit his regular job in the army of Albania and came to join the KLA.
So who acted as commander until the time Mr. Shehu arrived in the Golak area?
Initially, when I first arrived, it was the unit for operational unit for Golak set up by Fatmir Sobi. It worked in small groups in villages. The main task of it consisted in defending the population which had been displaced by systematic terror. We are talking about 100,000 people who'd been displaced and established in schools and homes around Golak. Our main task was to protect that population, to help them, to give them health care and so on. So that's what our task consisted of at the time.
Do you recall approximately when Commander Shehu arrived to the Golak area and formally took up his role as commander of Brigade 153?
Roughly about 2 weeks later, that's when he assumed control.
Thanks, Mr. Visseri. I'll now be asking you some questions about the structure and functioning of Brigade 153, which you seem to have a good memory. First off, what operational zone was Brigade 153 part of?
Brigade 153 formed part of the LAP operational zone.
Where did Brigade 153 have its headquarters when it was at the time of its creation on 20 February 1999?
When it was set up, it was in the house of Fatmir Sopi in the village of Slush, about 20 kilometers from Pristina.
And would you, as a deputy commander, be based in Fatmir Sopi's house at that time?
Yes.
Did you also sleep there, spend there the nights, or did you spend the nights elsewhere?
That's where we stayed. We stayed at his home.
Now, of the officers of Brigade 153, who else was based at Fatmir Sopi's house at that time?
There were no officers. It was in the process of being formed. Co-fighters, I'd call them. Otherwise, there were no officers around, largely because it was in the process of being set up. I think it should be clear to all and sundry that Brigade 153 and the KLA did not emerge out of barracks and military academies. It emerged out of the people, the people who offered their sons and daughters as a result of the utterly difficult situation caused by the Serbian military and the police.
That perhaps what I meant is the commanders, so the people who were in charge. So you were based there, and was Mr. Sopi based there?
Yes.
Mr. Shehu, when he arrived?
Shehu stayed there after arriving as well. I'm not sure you understand, but every house in Golak was also an army base. Everything was shared around with the army. Our mothers would cook out in the yards if the need arose to feed the soldiers. The whole people were put themselves at the disposal of the army to help everyone who arrived to join. We paid, for instance, attention to detail such as the powder milk needed for breastfeeding mothers.
Did Brigade 153 have somebody acting as a chief of staff?
Initially did not. However, at the end, near the end of the war, that task was given to me.
Now, let's move a bit forward in time by a month or two, around April 1999. At that time, did you know a man by the name of Rahman Dini?
Yes.
Rahman Dini.
He was part of my organization from 1984, which was the National Liberation Front, that's what it was called, and he had been convicted whilst a minor. Otherwise, he suffered from a heart problem, he had asthma, and his lungs had been entirely destroyed as a result of the tortures that he had been subjected to as a child, and eventually he paid with his own life.
How was his health around March and April 1999? Rahman Dini's health?
It was very poor. In normal circumstances, he ought to have been sent to an A&E unit.
Was he receiving medical care at the time, to the extent possible under the circumstances?
There were doctors amongst the displaced population, and medicine, students of medicine. The hospitals, even before the war, before being displaced, were not available to us, so we all took care of each other.
Did Rahmandini have any active operational role in March or April 1999?
I cannot recall. I don't think he was able to.
Now, Mr. Veseli, you told us that around February 1999 and Fatmir Sopi's house was used as headquarters. You were staying there, Fatmir Sopi was staying there, Mr. Shehu stayed there when he arrived. Aside from this place that you've mentioned, was there any other building used by Brigade 153 in Slash?
I came in the room.
We later moved on to Sadiq Sopi's house. He's the uncle of Fatmir Sopi.
Was there any building or any area of Slash where soldiers and new recruits were trained?
New recruits underwent training at the Slash school. The opposite side of the school, which was not... which was hidden away and not able to be observed from a distance by the Serbian forces. Otherwise, that's where the training took place, and it included also lectures held inside the school classrooms. I was one of those people giving those lectures.
So far, we've learned that Brigade 153 was headquartered in Slash. And you told us the locations where it was headquartered. Now, within the area of Slash, were there other KLA units which were based and or operating from there?
There were two other units set up in Slash. The Karadak Operational Unit, which was at a distance of about 200 meters from our headquarters. It was also in the process of being set up as an operational zone. And there was also a group of city guerrilla fighters who were called the BIA. Let me explain. BIA is an acronym. It's the first letters of three martyrs, Bariou, Iliri, and Agron.
Who was the commander of the BIA unit in the period of March and April 1999?
If I recall correctly, it was Salih Mustafa.
Was Salih Mustafa known by any other name or nickname at the time during the war?
I heard that he was called Salih, which is a name I've never used myself. I always called him Salih.
And I forgot to ask earlier, Mr. Veseli, were you known by any other name or nickname at the time?
Yeah.
No.
What about Bazzi?
Yeah, Bazzi comes in and goes.
Bazzi, the nickname, belongs to the pre-war period when I was illegal. After the war, that nickname went to someone else.
I understand. Thank you. Now, during your time, from the time you arrived in the Golak region and that you took up your position as a commander in February, deputy commander in 1999. Did you ever encounter in the area Salih Mustafa in person?
Bon.
Yes.
Was the BA unit part, or let me rephrase, did the BA unit fall under the command of Brigade 153?
Io.
No.
Io asking quick
It did not report to the brigade. It depended directly from the LUC operational zone, and it was called the City Guerrilla. They came to Slush to take shelter there because it was very dangerous for them to remain in the city. There was a very high control by the police. That's why they came there. And for rehabilitation of the soldiers.
So I think you made mention of guerrilla or something. Can you tell the court what the role of the BA unit was within the conflict? What role? What did they do?
Like any guerrilla unit, it operated within the city of Pristina and eventually also in Podujev.
Now, you told the court that the BA unit also had a base in Slash. Where in Slash did BA have its base?
Very
North of Slash village, there were some isolated houses, old houses, which the owners had abandoned. Of course, with the consent of the owners, they made use of these houses. We didn't do anything without the consent of the villagers, of the inhabitants. Maybe you should know this, that we used to carry flour on our backs and cook ourselves and not burden the people, not ask the people to do it for us.
Now, if you were at the school and you had to reach the BA unit base, would you have to walk uphill or downhill?
You had, if you came out of the school, you took a right at an angle of maybe 45 degrees, about 1 kilometer or so, maybe 2 kilometers. It was far from the school.
And was it in a more elevated position compared to the school, or further down?
It was a trigonometric quota. It was higher, actually.
Now, did you ever enter this base that you've described to be a number of houses?
No, never.
And who was in charge of this base, of this compound?
To my recollection, Commander Salih, he was responsible. I don't know of anyone else.
Were any of your men stationed at that base, Mr. Salih? Any of your Brigade 153 soldiers?
Yeah.
No.
Now, you told us you haven't been there, but perhaps by virtue of your position at the time, you might know the answer. How many soldiers, give or take, were BIA soldiers were stationed in that base? Do you know?
Sir, I refer to some strict military principles. I didn't want anyone to interfere in my brigade, and I didn't want to do that with another brigade. It was not my part of my duty. So I didn't allow myself to do that. Why should I interfere? And I didn't interfere in anyone else's affairs.
I wasn't implying any interference or asking you if you had interfered. I was just wondering if you knew, by and large, the number of BIA operatives who were based in that compound.
For me, it was of principal importance to process information from the ground about the movements of the Serb forces, which were working every day to encircle us.
Okay. Now,
Mr. Prosecutor, sorry for interrupting you, but I was looking at the transcript on page 14, line 21, and just to be sure if it's not something about temporary transcription or for me it's not exactly clear because I didn't hear it also. I didn't hear it very clearly through interpretation. Who was who was in charge of the base? And I would like to have that repeated again.
Mr. Seria, Madam President would like if you could tell us again, I know you've told us, but tell us again, who was in charge of the base, of the BIA base in Slash?
I'm answering to Her Honor. It was Salih Mustafa.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Thank you, Mr. Witness.
Mr. Veseli, in addition to Salih Mustafa, did you personally know any other member of the BIA unit?
No, other than one who came from Tirana, of whom I have the best recollections, Bari Gashi, as a very honest man.
And Bari Gashi, so he was a member of the BIA unit?
Yes.
In Slash?
I saw him in Slash, but every day they traveled, they went to the city, they came back, so it was a base for the rehabilitation of soldiers where soldiers could take a rest.
You have just stated that Bari Gashi was a very honest man. Would appear it's a man you held in high esteem. What was your consideration of other members of the BIA unit? If you...
I didn't know them, but I'm saying quite bluntly, when I heard that they used some pseudonyms, they were not part of my vocabulary, like tabuti, death. These are not part of my nature, so I don't know much about them. And I didn't know to know them. I don't like people using pseudonym. I don't want to have anything to do with such people.
Now, Your Honor, if I could perhaps, on this issue, refresh the witness memory with some remarks he made about Barigashi and other people he's just mentioned during the SPO interview.
Please proceed.
Your Honor, if we could please have on the screen in English, and then I will read it out, and the witness will receive the translation. 069889 TRET Part 2, starting at the bottom of page 13, please.
Please proceed, Madam Court Officer.
Now, Mr. Veseli, I'm going to read part of a question and answer that an exchange that you had with the prosecutor during your interview on the 27th of November 2019. The prosecutor asked you, did you come into contact with any other member of the BI unit in addition to Salih Mustafa? You answered, there was a young man, a fine young man, who was manipulated by them. And then I was with him in Tirana. And he has proven, if need was, even after what he is, and he's a fine man, hardworking, honest man. And you stated that he was Barigashi. And then, page 14, now we are, Your Honor. The prosecutor asked you, at line 17, but on what basis do you say they manipulated him? And you answer, they manipulated him because, first of all, I just couldn't frankly believe that he would stand side by side with a thief. Now, could I ask you, Mr. Veseli, to elaborate on that statement? What did you mean when you told the prosecutor that you couldn't believe that a fine man like Barigashi would stand side by side with a thief?
It's very clear. People said they are thieves. Myself, I don't know them. I don't know what he was dealing with. But people said he was a thief. And as an individual, I would never be convinced that Barigashi could bring himself so low.
Who is it that people were saying was a thief? So is it who are you referring to?
People who have such nicknames, Tabut, Death, I don't think a normal person would ascribe to himself as Death.
If I can read another short extract from that transcript.
You may.
And it is page 14, starting at line 23. You stated, Mr. Veseli, there were amongst them individuals who had nicknames, Death, Tabuti, the person, Gatesman, and there were criminals who had been criminals with a criminal record their entire life. So in other words, you wouldn't go anywhere on earth with these people. You just want to stay away from these hardcore criminals. And so Barry is a very fine man, an honest man. He's good. There are people you don't want to be with, so he was manipulated. So these people that you are now, that you have named, like Death, Tabuti, were they members of the BA unit?
To my recollection, they were members of the BI unit. I didn't know them personally. I heard that they were repeat offenders, but nobody could prevent them from taking part in the war to liberate their country. But as a person, I would have never liked to be in the company of such men.
Thanks, Mr. Salih. That's clear. And just one last question about these men you've just mentioned. Were they present in Slash at the time? We're talking about April, yes, in April 1999.
I don't know if they were. I didn't know them as individual. But when the offensive started, usually we were engaged in defensive actions. Because if you engage in military actions in the presence of the population, you're a criminal. I know that BIA took positions in Marevs and fought against the Serb forces. As to who they were by name, I don't know. I knew Salih before the war as a former political prisoner. I had good relations with him before the war. I consider him a co-fighter. We were in the same army, but I can't say anything about others. I don't know.
Please keep your answers to the questions you are posed. Yeah? And don't elaborate further if you're not asked to.
Mr. Salih, page 15 of the transcript that we have here, lines 14 to 16, you were asked, after being asked about Tabuti and these other men you've mentioned, the prosecutor asked you, were they in Slash? And you stated yes, they came time after time. Now and then they came to find shelter. So does that refresh your memory as to whether these men were present in Slash?
Please, every military unit, when it comes with all its members. And since they were normally members of this unit, they came. But I say that I don't know them.
Now, Your Honor, one last part. If we could go to be further up to page 12, and the end of page 12 and beginning of page 13. Now, the prosecutor asked you, and we were on line 20, the name Skifteri, what does that mean to you? And you appear to have answered, I actually called them the crows, because Skifteri means the hawk, and hawk is a noble bird. Why do you call the BIA unit the crows, when in fact their insignia represented a hawk, a noble bird?
I'm explaining it. The hawk is a noble bird, and he always triumphs. Somebody who didn't have a weapon, he cannot be a hawk.
But why
You can be a crow.
crow of all birds?
Because the crow can be easily overcome.
Your Honor, if we could move briefly to page 17 of the transcript, and starting at line 7 to line 13,
Please proceed, Madam Court Officer.
Yeah, I see it on the screen. So now, one last thing on this issue, Mr. Vesali. The prosecutor at the time asked you, Mr. Vesali, did you approve of BIA? And you stated, no. Why not? Nobody asked me, by the way, but I'm asking you now, said the prosecutor. And your answer was, I did not approve of it. I don't like them. And today, to this day, I do not want them. I do not like them because it's a bad, dirty part of this history. Can you explain the court the basis of that opinion of yours? Why did you consider the BIA unit to be a dirty and bad part of this history, Mr. Vesali?
I already explained. Having such pseudonyms as Death and Tabuti, for me, that cannot constitute a good part of the history. Find in the history of some people in the world whose fighters assume such pseudonyms. This is the reason why I'm saying this.
Here, Mr. Vesali, you are referring to the BIA unit as a whole. You're not making reference to any particular members of them. You were asked what you thought about the BIA, and you say, I don't like them. It's a dirty and bad part of this history. So why are you considering the whole unit, as it would appear, the whole BIA unit as a dirty and bad part of this history? Is that just because of the nicknames they used?
If it was a mistake, it may be so, but I can't accuse the entire unit.
What did the BIA unit do that made you think they were a dirty and bad part of history, Mr. Vesali? You're under oath.
Papa?
Yes. I don't want to escape the truth. What I saw, I'm going to say it, and I don't hesitate to say it. If one pretends to be a military unit and all the time it stays up in the mountains and never engages in the battlefield, for me this is not something regular.
Well, when the prosecutor asked you, just a few lines after that, why you held that opinion of the BIA unit, you did not refer to what you just said, but you stated, when you have amongst them thieves, repeated offenders, criminals, that is dirty. So it would appear that it was your opinion of the BIA unit was based also on the people who were members of it. Was it not?
I cannot say this of the people I know, but as there are people that are repeat offenders, as people said then, I cannot hold such people in high esteem. I know that the elementary right of somebody is to fight for the liberation of one's country. Nobody can prevent them from doing that.
Salih, but please, you expressed an opinion which was very strongly worded. You volunteered that information, in fact. What did they do? What did they do that made you think that? What information do you have, Mr. Vesali?
From what people said, what I said here, I came later. I didn't know them before. I found them already in place in the sense of being established.
Your Honors, could we please briefly move into private session? I need to discuss some information which is best discussed in private session.
Very well. Madam Court Officer, could you bring us into private session, please?
Your Honours, we're back in public session.
Please proceed, Mr. Prosecutor.
Your Honor, I don't have any further question for this witness. We tendered the witness to the court.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Very well. Victims' Counsel, do you have questions for the witness? And are you in a position to put these questions to the witness right now?
Your Honours, we don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well. Defense Counsel, do you have questions for the witness? And could we start right now?
Yes, Your Honor, we can start. I want at some point in time have a break and be able to have a conversation with my client. But that is not necessary at this point. Maybe during the lunch break or so, but we would like to definitely use such time. So we will allocate our time management regarding that.
Very well, Defense Counsel. You have the floor. Please, your microphone.
Mr. Vasily, I just want to touch on a number of topics with you. Was there any particular reason that the Brigade 153 was located in Zlaž?
It was an area that had not been protected, and a large number of the population had been displaced to that place, but more significantly, it was because of the terrain. That terrain enabled the conduction of the war according to a second-level military doctrine.
Understand. Do you recall when the NATO bombings were in Pristina?
Yes.
Could you tell us when that was?
Towards the end of March.
And towards the end of March, was there an influx of people coming?
I can't recall the exact date.
But whenever this was towards the end of March, was there a large group of people seeking refuge in the Gulag area?
Yes, there was an influx of population, a huge influx of population before the bombing started, and the numbers grew even more after the bombings.
Since Zlaž, at least.
There wasn't a single spot that did not have civilians in the Gulag area, and these were all displaced people.
Would these people be located or accommodated?
They were sent to people's homes, to schools. Some stayed in tents.
And was there any way that at the time there was somebody in charge of allocating these people, or would these people go randomly to places to seek refuge.
Kachan
The Civil Protection Unit.
And who was in charge of that civil protection unit?
Fatmir Sopi.
Fatmir Sopi.
You said that you were busy with the regulations within the brigade, setting up regulations for the brigade. Is that correct?
Go.
That's right.
Would that be?
The internal regulations, I drew on the literature of the Albanian and Yugoslav armies.
And could you give us a couple of examples of what kind of regulations we are talking about?
The regulations to defend against explosive devices, the regulations on how to conduct yourself with the public, the regulation on how to fall in, the reporting, the conduct with prisoners of war, and all of that would be in compliance with international law on the conduct of war.
Was there any regulation regarding internal discipline of members of the brigade?
Yes.
Could you give us, in short, an outline how those regulations look like?
First, we had regulations of the KLA, of the Kosovo Liberation Army, and as a dependent unit of the KLA, we had our own regulations. For example, non-compliance with an order. It forms part of another section, whereby you would go and have a chat with the subject and advise him or her, but it did not include any other form of punishment.
Okay. Was there a military police unit in the Slash area or in the Golak area, in the same area where Brigade 153 operated?
Yes.
Shukri Rafuna,
Shukri Rafuna was the name.
What was his deputy?
Defense Counsel, your question was not translated.
Okay.
And it was the question where the answer was Shukri Rafuna was the name. So the question was who was in charge of Brigade 153? Is that what you meant?
No, the military police.
Okay, but please repeat the question just to be clear for the record.
Just to be clear, Shukri Rafuna, is that the person in charge of the military police? Do I understand that?
Yes.
Could you tell us what was the competence of the military police?
It was to defend the area where the civilian population were located and the defense of the headquarters. In total, it consisted of about 20 people. It was the military police in all, just in name, but overall it only had about 20 members.
Your Honor, I would like to ask to go into private session.
Madam Court Officer, could you bring us into private session, please?
Just to be on the safe side, I think think it would be appropriate.
Then we continue to be here. Madame Court Officer, could you please, after you've heard the references with uploading the evidence?
It is, yes. I get it. Okay. It's U0009175, U0009175 ET. Yes. I do think we have a better legible one of that, honestly.
Yes, U009804, but I don't know if this...
Your Honor, if I may be of assistance.
Yes, please.
That would be U0009804 in the original. It's a legible copy of the document that is a bit blackened there.
Thank you very much for your assistance.
That is the document. Thank you very much, Counsel. Just could we blow up the Albanian version, please, for the witness? Mr. Veseli, would you please read through this document?
It's my handwriting.
In this document, what does it basically say?
Defense counsel, I proposed to make it, to let him read it out instead of giving a summary.
Okay. Mr. Veseli, would you please read it loud?
I can't remember who he's talking about, but that is my handwriting. And it is quite normal that should somebody steal, it needs to be dealt with. It is my signature and I accept it.
I propose that you read it out in English, then it will be translated into Albanian for the record.
Yes.
Because now we have not done that.
Mr. Veseli, I will read it out loud in the English text as we have it. And then I read the content of it. It says, Kosovo Liberation Army, LAP Operational Zone, 153rd Brigade, on 11 April 1999.
Your Honors, we're back in public session.
Okay. Defense counsel, I think it's best.
Maybe best to stop.
Best to stop now. Let me see. Defense counsel, after the break, how long do you think you will need to proceed with your cross-examination?
I will think I need more than an hour, just about, yeah.
And would it? How much time do you think you would need to talk to your client?
Consult.
Because maybe what we could do is that we enlarge the break now, so that you will have to have time to do that.
Yes, I think that's fine, Your Honor. I think we would need about
half an hour.
That would be fine. Yes.
Then what we will do is then we will resume at 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Very well.
And if we could establish then a Zoom meeting.
I'm sure that
Yeah,
CMU will be of all technical assistance that is needed. Very well. Mr. Vaselli, we are going to have a break now for 1 hour till 12 o'clock. And then we will see you back. Okay.
I'm here.
So, Defense Counsel, I noted that you will be meeting for about an hour. That's what you said. Please, Mike.
We have a break of about 1 hour now. Half an hour will be consumed by the meeting that we have, and then afterwards for a good hour, I would say.
Okay. Very well. We will adjourn till 12 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
All rise. All rise.
Please be seated. Okay. Let us call appearances. Mr. Prosecutor, I see that you are in the same composition as before the break.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Okay.
And the same here. Thank you.
Very well, and I see that the same is...
And the same.
Very well. Good. Madame Court Usher, could you please usher the witness in? Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Defense counsel, you have the floor to proceed with the cross-examination of the witness.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Mr. Vesely. Mr. Vesely, we just spoke before the break about an arrest order that you had issued. And that arrest order was dated on the 11th of April. Do you recall where you were between the 1st of April and the 19th of April, 1999?
Zloš.
In Slush.
Regarding this arrest order, do you know if this person was ever actually arrested? The person that was mentioned in that arrest order that we spoke earlier.
I don't know.
Know if anybody else has been arrested actually in that period of time in Slash or outside Slash or taken to Slash? I did not catch your answer.
I don't know.
Do you know if...
I don't know.
Do you know if anybody has ever been detained in Slash?
I don't know at all that there was a detention center in Slush.
That?
I don't think there was a detention center in Slush.
Anybody ever mentioned to you any detention center existing in Slash?
Yeah.
No.
Anybody ever mentioned to you that people had been detained in Slash?
Yeah.
No.
Anybody ever mentioned to you, or do you have any knowledge of any people who have been cruelly treated in Slash?
I don't think so. Because first, it was not the mission of the Kosovo Liberation Army to maltreat people, and I don't believe that a KLA soldier to have violated the oath.
Salih Mustafa is being accused of ordering people or having people detained in Slash. Have you ever heard anybody speaking about Mr. Mustafa doing such thing?
If you allow me, I would like to expand my answer. I know Salih very well. And nobody can convince me that Salih Mustafa has done such a thing. Someone who has devoted his life to the good of his people and who has spent his life in jails, I don't think he can trample such a thing.
And if anybody else maltreated people in or around Slash?
I know only that this has been done by the Serb army and police.
Regarding...
Please, excuse me. And over 135 were killed in Makovs in the vicinity of Slash by the Serb military and police. I can tell you one case, the Kukofar Brigade.
First, Ellie, please give answers to the question and don't elaborate on other things that have nothing to do with the question.
Mr. Vesely.
Your Honor, allow me to say this because I consider it of spiritual value. Microphone, please. It's you who decide, of course.
The Slash location, as you said, was a place where people were as you said it, getting some rehabilitation. What exactly do you mean with that?
When someone is injured or wounded and there is no place he can go and have his wounds healed, then that soldier would come to this place.
The place of the Slash compound, do you know to whom belonged that place?
I don't know.
Do you know how it was possible that people would be located on that Slash compound?
Your Honor.
Yes.
No.
Sorry.
Let me.
No, please formulate your question
Yes.
more precise, because I don't think it's clear. I don't even know what you mean now.
Yes. Let me first get back to another question. You know that the headquarters of the Brigade 153 was at some point in this in or near the school. Is that correct?
The staff of the brigade was never located in the school.
Was it near the school?
About 2 kilometers away from the school.
Defense counsel, could you ask him when? Because we have had 3 different locations with regard with where the headquarters were.
Yes. You mentioned the uncle of Fatmir Sopi, at where that headquarters was located. When was that?
Oh.
Yes. Before the offensive started. I mean, a little before then, the Patkoy operation, the horseshoe operation, as we called it, started.
In your mind, can you put a date on that, when that offensive started?
Maybe 16, 17 or 18 of April.
Defense counsel, for me it's still not clear what is meant with a little before. Could you ask the witness to precise that if he can?
Excuse me, Your Honor. I got the last question about the...
I will ask the question myself, Mr. Veseli. If you say that it was a little before the Patkoy operation, yeah, what do you mean with a little before in terms of days, weeks, months?
The brigade kept increasing its ranks. And that being the case, the brigade was searching for a place where it could be accommodated, and it found that house.
My question was, when before the offense, you were staying in that house?
You have to bear in mind, Your Honor, that 23 years have passed. I am 73 years old, and I suffer from senile amnesia, and I don't remember. And if you allowed me to refer to notes, I might have been in a position to give you more accurate answers. You all have notebooks or notes before you. I don't have.
So if I make a summary, you say, I don't remember when that was exactly.
Don't.
Don't. I do not remember the exact date.
My question was just if it was in April 99, March, February, and it's perfectly fine if you say, I don't know.
I know that it was at the beginning of April, a little while before the launching of the offensive.
Thank you, Mr. Vaselli. You have the floor, Defense Counsel.
Mr. Vaselli, BIA operated principally in Pristina, you said. So what was the use of them to be located in Slash?
I already said that they came there to recover, but when the offenses was being launched, they took part in the fighting. In a house where the people who were most tired stayed. He was very tired himself. He was very weak. He couldn't move without anyone helping him.
What was his position actually?
I don't know. The main thing is that he was our comrade. He was former political prisoner and one of the organizers of the war.
Was that
He was very sick. Cardiac asthma, arterial problems, and arthrosis. Hypertension.
Did he suffer from that mostly after the offensive, or in which period of time, or before the offensive, or during the offensive?
These conditions were inflicted on him during tortures by the Serb occupiers, by the severe tortures he was subjected to by the Serb police when he was a minor.
But he did have a position in the command of Brigade 153, is that correct?
He was our comrade, and people consult their comrades for everything. But personally, I was involved in the drafting of the rules, the daily orders, and I was very little involved with the soldiers. That was the duty of Adem Shehu. Fatmir also had it as his duty to to increase the ranks of the KLA on the ground.
Dini do then, actually?
Your Honor, I think that the witness has already amply explained that Rahmandini was sick at the time. I think he said he couldn't move. So I don't know if we need to belabor the point much further. But just to make it clear that the witness has answered these questions.
No, Your Honor, the witness did not answer, in my view.
Please, I will give you the opportunity to continue, but bear in mind that
Yes.
I heard the question again, so but I
Yes.
want to give you the floor to see if you reach at your point that you think it's necessary to go.
Yes. I just want to touch on not what is not possible, but what is possible, and that is what I'm trying to elicit from the witness.
Please proceed.
So my question to do is, whatever his health problems were, what actually did he do within the brigade?
He was waiting his death. We were all waiting for his death, which might come at any moment.
So I take it that well, I'll leave that part. Do you know if the BIA actually had any particular uniform that they were wearing?
Just like the other KLA army units, we didn't have a factory to manufacture uniforms, so we had people with and without uniforms. It was merely a member of the KLA army.
Would they wear any insignia if they would wear a uniform, or even without the uniform?
Every KLA member had an emblem of the KLA. On the background there was our national flag, the beheaded eagle against a red background, black eagle.
Actually possible to distinguish KLA members of the brigade or people from the BIA unit?
No.
Did you wear yourself a uniform, Mr. Vasily?
Yes, I did wear a uniform. Initially, I was wearing normal sports clothes, but then later I was donned in uniform and didn't take it off until I was released from the army.
Thank you very much. How did you get your information regarding movements of Serbian forces?
We used to survey the terrain. We were military men. We followed their movements. We took new positions as necessary. The same thing that is happening today in Ukraine. We used to observe their observation posts, the positioning of the artillery, the armored units, the infantry units, the paramilitaries, and on the basis of their movements, we came to the conclusion that such thing was about to happen.
And did you get information over the radio? I mean, the internal radio of...
We had very weak radio signals, which is normal during the war to use coded messages.
And from who would you receive those?
Among ourselves, we exchange such signals, such messages. We always prepared a coded letter for any issue that we had.
Which would be taking positions behind enemy lines?
It is normal. It is the popular warfare of second level. The KLA units can ambush the enemy whenever it cannot expect it. So a regular army cannot, let's say, cope with a popular army, but because they can attack it whenever it's not, can launch sudden attacks. But we refrained from fighting when the population, civilian population, was there.
And was the civilian population helping the brigade in respect of giving information about enemy movements?
The civilian population gave everything to their army.
Had contact over the radio with Mr. Salih Mustafa?
Yeah.
No.
Do you recall in the period of time in April in April 1999 whether he was there often in Zlaž?
Yes.
Did you meet him on occasion?
He had to mind his own business. I had mine. If he wanted to discuss operational issues, then he had to meet at them. I mainly dealt in paperwork.
And you said he had to mind his own business. What was his business actually?
Military business related to the liberation war.
Him also a safe place to go?
Zlaž was our land, both for me and for him.
Do you know where he actually would stay when he would be in Zlaž?
There, where the base was.
Do you know, have you ever been on that base yourself?
Ask and answer, Your Honor, during direct examination.
Never.
And
No, wait. Mr. Prosecutor, please come again.
Apologies. We already asked the witness if he has ever been in the base, and he said that he didn't, and he's just confirmed that now again.
Defense counsel, please don't repeat the questions
Yeah.
unless you have something else you would like to add to that former question, because you want to confront him maybe with something he said in his SPO witness statement.
well, actually, that was the idea, Your Honor. And do you know of people of the command, of the other command, who would visit the location where Bia was staying?
What do you, excuse me?
Any other people of the command?
Which command?
Of the Brigade 153. So, let me repeat the question. Mr. Vasili, do you know any other people of the Brigade Command 153 who would actually visit that Bia location? Or where Bia
Sorry,
stayed?
Your Honor. if I may, I
Wait,
hate
wait,
to-
wait. Before you say something,
Could the speakers please not overlap? Thank you. It's impossible to interpret if people are speaking at the same time. Thank you.
right, and we will try to adhere to that, Madam Interpreter. Mr. Vaselli, could you take off your headphones, please? Okay. Mr. Prosecutor, you have the floor to make the point you want to make.
just a bit more precision, asking the witness whether he knows if somebody would visit. I don't even know if the witness can know whether somebody would visit personally or on occasion a base. I don't really see the point of that question, Your Honor, and it seems misleading.
Defense counsel, do you want to say something about that? Because I will rule on it, but maybe you want to say.
Well, Your Honor, there is a possibility that people from the command visited the place and relayed that information about that, whatever was taking place, to Mr. Vaselli. So that is the entire point of it. Yeah. So whether it's not directly, it's not so much what he saw himself, because he wasn't there, but more what he heard about it if somebody of the command would go there.
Yeah. My instructions to you would be ask that question more precise, because I see what you want to elicit, but the question was stated too widely for the witness. So try to be more precise in your questioning.
Mr.
Ja, Paul.
Please proceed, Defense Counsel.
Did any of the other people who were in the command with you in Brigade 153, did they ever tell you that they went to the BIA base to visit there or have a meeting there?
I didn't ask them, but we were not enemies. We were co-fighters. They might have met them. And for me, it's quite normal, such a thing.
Any information about the base to you?
Ja.
No.
Your Honor, I would like to go into private session.
Madam Court Officer, could you bring us into private session, please? Headphones, please.
Oh.
Thank you. Mr. Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Your Honor, I was just suggesting that perhaps we could move. I don't know if we still need to remain in private session at this point in time. There's no protected information being discussed.
Thank you for your remark. I will, Defense Counsel, can we go into public session, or is there a reason that you wanted to stay asking these specific questions in public? Because we could go into public and then go back into private.
Very well, Your Honor.
No, it's a question.
Yes, very well, Your Honor. We can go, but soon we will go back again into private session again.
But I would suggest to group the questions in such a way.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do. Sorry.
Defense Counsel, I really would appreciate that you wait with your answers when I'm finished, because for the transcript, it becomes very complicated to read. And you can witness that yourself if you go through the transcripts. Then we go back into public session, and then as soon as you think that it's necessary, Defense Counsel, we go back into private session. Madam Court Officer, could you bring us back into public session, please? Mr. Vasselli, please. Thank you for putting your headphones on again.
Your Honor, we're back in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Defense Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Do you know anybody with the name of Shemi?
What's his surname? What is Shemi's surname? My brother shares the same name. And if you mean that one, he used to vaccinate the soldiers.
And was there anybody else with the name of Shemi in the period of April 1999 in Slash?
Yeah.
No.
With the name Shuti, do you know that person?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know, excuse me, I would like to go into private session, Your Honor.
Very well. Madam Court Officer, could you bring us back into private session, please?
Your Honours, we're back in public session.
Thank you. Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Have you ever heard of a person with the name of Agim Fazliou?
Yeah.
No.
Besim Abazi?
Yeah.
No.
Bari Havoli?
Yeah.
No.
Bi Beha?
Yeah.
No.
Hisen Borovci?
Yeah.
No.
Makoli?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Besim Beha?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Recep Berisha?
Yeah.
No.
Kamil Gashi?
Yeah.
No.
Fatmir Gashi?
Yeah.
No.
Pestrisha?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know if there was anybody detained in the area of La Pastiche?
Look at the.
I don't.
Okay. Have you ever heard of a person with the name Afrimi?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Vdekia?
Yeah.
No.
Nia?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
With the name Ilmi Rakovica?
Yeah.
No.
Bujari?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
With the name Bafta?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
And could Bafta be a nickname?
Bafta Mundir.
It might maybe Bahri Gashi.
And do you know what position actually Barigashi had?
Look at the.
I don't.
His involvement was in
Look
the
at
period of April.
I don't. It was none of my business, in fact.
Do you recall when the offensive started in Slash?
Yes.
At that time, when that offensive started, were they able, the Serbians, to manage to get near the school?
Yes.
And were you at that time located there, at the school, or near the school?
I did not stay at the school, but otherwise we were in the vicinity because we resisted.
And at some point, did you need to evacuate that area?
A tactical retreat, yes. because we were not in a position to face off to a modern army. We were fighting with weapons from the Second World War.
And while you were retreating, at which point in time were there at that moment, at the time of the offensive, still many refugees around Slash?
Defense Counsel, I did not hear you establish today that there were refugees around Slash, as the way you have just put it. So I suggest you don't put words in the mouth of the witness.
Your Honor, I'm sure that the witness has stated that after the airstrikes in March 1999, there was a big influx of refugees in the Slash area. So I take it that they were remaining there, and that's why my question was whether there were still a lot of refugees there at the time.
But you're saying in Slash? Around
Yes,
Slash, that is indicating that it would be in the neighborhood. I think that it has not been established in that way, so...
Okay. Were there in the Slash area refugees at the time of the offensive?
Yes, about 200,000 refugees were there in the area of responsibility of Brigade 153.
And at which point in time did these people needed to evacuate from that area, where the area of Brigade 153? So at which point in time did the people need to evacuate?
From the moment which in military terms is called the artillery preparation, when the Serbian army started shelling the area of responsibility of Brigade 153 using weapons of caliber no smaller than 153 millimeters. As a matter of fact, they even used the first aid helicopter with the Red Cross markings, and it shelled us using Russian weaponry on board. So if there's anyone that has infringed the rules of war, it was Serbia, first and foremost, because they came to our territory. We did not go to Serbia to fight. A large number of people started to retreat, and a large number of them went to Makovts.
Okay, now, before you continue, Defense Counsel, I want to make something clear in the questioning of this witness, not with regard to you, but two questions I want to put to the witness in order to clarify something we are discussing at the moment. If you Mr. Vaselli, if you say the area of Slash, what do you mean with that?
It was the zone of responsibility of Brigade 153.
From a geographical point of view, if you say the area of Slash, what do you mean with that?
It's the zone of responsibility of Brigade 153. This is the military terminology for it. However, if we talk about the area, it's Rimanisht, Bardosh, Roshevts, Kolic, Grashtic, Mramor, Makovts, Vitie, Marevcit, Prapashtic, Kechikol, Nishevts, Balaban. These are the villages that form the area of responsibility of Brigade 153. They were shelled from 5 different directions from the Serbian army, and the population started to retreat. Your Honours, please try to understand me, because I'm full of emotions here. It is not easy to see one of your co-fighters have his limbs cut with a saw, with an electrical saw. We've seen quite a few things like this, and you have to understand the well of emotions here. please do try to understand. Even when I expand on it, I cannot stop myself from doing so because it comes from deep inside my soul. Most of you are parents. You may be able to understand how the children experienced that fact, i.e., that their father's leg was cut, then the other leg, then the other limbs, and then his head. So there's hundreds of people who are subjected to this kind of thing when the offensive started and the population started to retreat towards Albania and Macedonia. Please do not forget. There were Russian and Serbian paramilitaries taking part.
And to ask you to answer the questions that are posed to you.
Bon.
Okay.
If you say the area of slash, what I now understand is that you mean with the area of slash the area of responsibility of Brigade 153. That is for you the same. And what I want to avoid is a misunderstanding when we talk about slash, because we could also be indicating the village of slash. Yeah. So before, when the Defense Council asked the question about if there were refugees in the area of slash, yeah, you meant the area over which Brigade 153 had responsibility, and you were not referring to the village of slash.
That's right.
To clarify, because my question, and when I interrupted the Defense Council, had to do with that misunderstanding. So I wanted to clarify that. Defense Council, you have the floor.
And Mr. Vesely, were there also refugees in the village of Slash?
Oh.
Yes.
Could you give us an estimate how roughly, how much we need to imagine for that?
We did not count them, but there wasn't a single household that wasn't hosting 10, 20, 30 people.
I understand. So that included the area, let's say, around the school as well.
Not at the school, because a military base with soldiers there, but every single house around had at a minimum 10 to 15 people who had sought shelter and accommodation there.
Mr. Vesely, when the offensive came near the village of Slash, where were you able to go? Where did you go?
Up in the mountain. In the mountains, the terrain is such that you could find a different position. We repositioned ourselves.
And where would the people, the refugees, go?
When the shelling started, the refugees began to retreat. You have to understand that on those occasions there's panic all over. You cannot stop a crowd which departs. We did appeal to them, for instance, not to go to a certain direction. However, when panic seizes a whole population, they just try to escape.
And after the offensive, you came back to the village of Slash.
We never abandoned the village of Slash.
I thought you just said we went to the mountains.
The center is like that, but there are mountains and forests around. But we never abandon the area, the terrain.
Did you have to abandon, or did the school have to be abandoned?
Yes, the school was shelled at. It was not usable, but we did not retreat. As a matter of fact, we set fire to their APCs and to their tanks.
Okay. And what was the situation regarding the houses in the Slash village after the Serbian offensive?
The majority of the villages in the center of Slash were burnt down, beginning with Fatmir's house, his uncle's, the headquarters, including the computer which we had. Everything was burned down. They used even napalm as weaponry.
Counsel,
yes.
Allow me to ask a question about the answer of the witness. Mr. Vaselli, you said the majority of the villages in the center of Slash were burned. Do you mean with villages houses?
The houses, yes, including the school. The school was shelled.
Thank you for that. Please proceed, Defense Counsel.
At which point in time was the offensive in the village of Slash over or ended? Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Roughly say what date that was.
It lasted for about a week. It was over in about a week. They finished what they set off to do, and they returned to their previous positions and kept the encirclement.
Deaths at that time?
Yes. Yeah.
Well.
Yes.
Visible dead people?
Civil.
There were civilians, children, and women who died.
Happened to these people who were lying there dead?
They used to slash people in their necks, stab them in their fronts. They even killed the cows who were about in the meadows. If they saw cars, they were run over by tanks.
Please answer the question. Or maybe the question was misunderstood. If I understood right, you said what happened with the persons, Defense Counsel, when they were lying dead on the ground.
Yes. What would happen with the corpses of those people eventually?
We buried them. In the village cemetery.
And were there, when was that in time?
After the offensive. There is a monument in their memory where people go and pay tribute at Vitia MRFZ, because it borders Lash.
Do you know if there were people who were unidentified?
Persona para identificar
Those who were burned in their homes could not be identified. The father of Shefki Gashi and his son were burned in their home, and they found only their remains. They could not be identified.
Who were at a particular moment not yet identified and later on identified, or was there within the brigade or later on any kind of unit busy to find out who is who from the people who did not survive the offensive?
The Forensic Institute did that after the war, following NATO troops coming into Kosovo. It didn't last long, because on the 12th of June, the NATO ground troops entered Kosovo and actually the war finished.
Family staying, actually?
My family went along with the refugees. They were driven out of Pristina and went to Albania.
Defense Counsel, before you... Please.
Finishing questions, and then we finish our line of questioning.
Okay. How much time do you think you will need? Because
I think 3 minutes.
A few minutes. Now I say that because I would like to finish around 1:15, less or more, because in that way we can allow people to make use of the facilities for our lunch, and of course we have time after that, but just to indicate what I have in mind. Please proceed.
Mr. Veseli, who is Shukri Rafuna?
Well, haven't we already discussed this?
Yeah.
I must agree with Mr. Prosecutor, so please formulate your follow-up question on that.
Okay. When do you know when exactly he became commander or taking over yours?
Before the offensive. He was during the phase of the founding of the brigade. Then, after all the units were in place, we had established the command. But the name of police meant a certain type, form of security to protect families against something happening, the headquarters of the units. More or less, this was what they did.
And did you have any particular contact with him, with Shukri Rafuna?
Yeah, I know him. I used to know him even before the war.
In the period of the war, in the period of April 1999, would he participate in meetings of the brigade command?
Ja.
No.
Lo che di, ho capito Adem Shen.
You have to use Adem Sheh, I don't know.
Lastly, you at some point became chief of staff. Is that correct?
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Past here,
After withdrawing the bodies of the wounded.
Reason for that?
They were in the front line, and we had to withdraw their bodies. The reason you have to look for the reason at the zone command. They knew that I had military experience and knowledge, and they trusted me with that duty. I didn't join the war for positions. And I'm saying this very briefly. When they said that NATO is here now, give up your weapons, I did that. And then I started to work at the National Institute of Public Health.
Your Honor, we have no further questions.
Thank you, Defense Counsel. Let us do it differently. We will adjourn the hearing till 2:45. I hope you will have some rest, Mr. Vaselli, and have your lunch, and then we will continue.
Thank you.
Court usher to usher you out of the courtroom. Thank you for now.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Court Usher. Let me see. We will have the possibility for a redirect examination. Mr. Prosecutor, do you feel the need for that?
Yes, Your Honor, but we'll be brief. I foresee 10 to 20 minutes tops.
Thank you. Victims' Counsel, would you like to ask any further questions?
Possibly not. What we will do is we'll review during the break. If so, it would only be one, maximum 2 questions.
Okay, very well. And I won't ask it for now to you, Defense Counsel. Very well. For the record, I have something to mention with regard to the communication of the SPO yesterday. Indeed, yesterday at 9:48, an email was sent to our inbox about the new estimation with regard to this witness. We overlooked it, so thank you for that. Good. I adjourn the hearing till, or we will resume the hearing at 2:45. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise.
2:45. Yes, 2:45.
All rise.
Please be seated. Very well. Welcome back. Let us call appearances. Mr. Prosecutor.
Your Honor, we are the same as before.
Very well. Victims' Counsel.
Good afternoon. No changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Defense counsel?
No changes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And I see that Mr. Mustafa is present via video link. Very well. Madam Court Usher, could you please usher the witness in? Welcome back. Mr. Vasselli, welcome back.
Thank you.
Continue with the examination, the redirect examination by Mr. Prosecutor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Vasselli, I just have a couple of questions for you. The first question concerns an order that was signed by you that you discussed with defense counsel. The order is U0009804, and the discussion was at page 33 of the provisional transcript of today. Now, page 35, this was an order that you issued, you explained, to arrest an operative of the Karadak zone who had stolen some flour that was in fact destined to the people. Asked by defense counsel whether when an order to arrest someone was issued, it would be issued in written format, you answered that you thought it ought to be written because spoken words may be forgotten. Do you recall? Now, I understand that that's... Thank you.
Yes.
So what your opinion is about that. But are you able, in fact, to say that any arrest order issued by a KLA commander or member during the war or during that time in 1999 was always issued in written form?
I don't know about others, but in my case, that was the only case that I issued an order, a written order, and I would have done the same if that happened again.
Thanks, sir. My second question concerns Mr. Rahmandini, whom we discussed today, and at page 11 of the provisional transcript, you told the panel that his health was poor, and when I asked you if he had any operational task, you said that you didn't think that would be possible. Page 46, in fact, you said that he was waiting to die. Now, Rahmandini was a comrade of yours at the time. Did you ever have the chance to visit him in March or April 1999 as he was convalescing?
Yes, I saw him daily, every day I saw him.
Was he convalescing? In which location of Slash? Could you tell us where you would see him, where he was stationed, considering his poor health?
In a house. It's not that he knew that his death was about to come soon, but we knew that there was he couldn't save, he couldn't escape death.
Was this house situated within the compound that hosted the BIA base or outside?
Yeah.
No, not there. It was near the school.
This concludes all the questions that I have. Thank you very much, Your Honor. We have no further questions. We're done.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Victims' Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honours. We do not have any further questions, or no questions at all. Thanks.
Thank you, Victims' Counsel. I now turn to the defense. Do you wish to proceed with the rejoinder examination, Defense Counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. One question. That order that the prosecutor just mentioned to you that was issued, was it a standard practice to issue these kind of orders in written form?
It was the first time for me, but it didn't mean that if it was the same case, this wouldn't happen again, because they deprived the people from their daily bread. It had to be stopped, that practice. If we couldn't do that, we would have referred the case to the lab operations.
But to issue the order in written form, was that in the regulations?
Io.
No. I did that myself. I didn't know of any other way how to deal with that, because he stole people's bread, the bread that was donated by others. So I did that, and I would do it again, and I do not repent that I did it. But I can't tell you, I don't know if he was indeed detained or not for that.
It was more not so much to what that person did, but whether such order would be in written form. And that is why I said, was that more or less a standard practice if an arrest would need to be done, that it would be done in a written format by either you or...
In every army, orders are issued in writing. It's recorded, it's an order. If it has the army logo, it should be a written order. Oral orders are given only to the soldiers in the front line. Otherwise, during fighting. Otherwise, they are issued in writing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Defense Counsel, so you're done with your questions.
Yes, that was my question.
Okay, very well. Mr. Witness, you have been asked several questions by the prosecutor, the Victims' Counsel, the Defense Counsel, and I would like to ask you to bear with us a little bit more, and the judges will now ask you some questions in order to try to gain some more clarity about some things you have been testifying on this morning. Okay? Now, let me see. Yes, we discussed today the Golak region. Yeah, could you clarify to the panel which villages, and not all, but some of the villages that were included in the Golak region, to get a better overview of what area we are talking about?
Krajine madhe. Dhe kur qysh brigada s'ka mujt me mbulue.
The Golak is a large area, and our brigade couldn't cover all of it. We covered the villages I enumerated earlier. I can do that again if the need be. Can I? Rimanisht, Kulin, Bardosh, Radoszewsk, Grashnic, Markovs, Mramor, Pusni, Zlash, Ketchekol, Kolich, Balaban, Nishevts, and Prapashtits.
Understand well that the Golag area is the same as the slash area, that you use them for the same.
Golag is much larger.
Okay. And the Golag area, was that the area that was under the responsibility of Brigade 153?
The parts that I referred to, that I mentioned, were part of the responsibility of Brigade 153.
Thank you. Yes. We have been discussing the BIA compound in Slash, in the village of Slash. And you have said today that the soldiers from the BIA unit, and that is the provisional transcript, page 44, line 9, that they went to Slash to recover. And then on 2 other occasions, and I will cite them for the record without pulling them up on the screen, you said that Slash, the BIA compound, it was used by the soldiers from the BIA unit as a shelter. And for the record, I mention part 2, page 13, lines 80 till 21, and page 16 of part 2, line 24 and 25, and also the first line of page 17. So you have been talking about to recover and talking about shelter for the soldiers of the BIA, that's the reason they went there. Could you clarify some more what you mean with shelter and recover? Where had they have to recover from, and from what did they have to seek shelter?
Because it was impossible for them to go to Pristina. They were afraid of the Serb police. Otherwise, I wouldn't know any other reason why they chose that.
Specifically the BIA soldiers and not other KLA soldiers?
The KLA soldiers were part of Brigade 153, but the configuration of Golag terrain is such that it gives you greater protection than in the city. It's a mountainous area. That's why for them it was a kind of base which sheltered them.
Why did the BIA soldiers have to be specifically sheltered and not, for example, the soldiers of Brigade 153?
They were another unit. In fact, BIA was part of another unit. Brigade 153 was another. BIA did not report to this brigade, that is 153. They were an independent, if you like, unit.
Completely clear to me. Thank you for that. But my question is a different one. Huh? Why you say specifically about the BIA soldiers that they had to seek shelter?
Based on my experience during the time of underground activity, when I undertook an operation, an action in the city, I withdrew for a time in a village to find shelter there.
Okay, for me, it's not completely clear yet. However, you said today, and I refer to page 22, lines 7 and 9, and page 21, lines 18 and till 21, that the soldiers of the BIA were, what you found strange, that they were up in the mountain, you said, and they were not engaging in the battlefield. Could you clarify some more what you meant with that?
When the offensive started, the BIA soldiers who were there joined Brigade 153 in a joint front because we were all part of the same army. That doesn't mean that they were aliens. So, under military discipline, every unit had their own tactical activity. So, it was a normal thing for them to be separate, just in any other army.
To you what you said, Mr. Vasselli. Let me see. Yeah. What I saw, I'm going to say it, and I don't hesitate to say it. If one pretends to be a military unit and all the time it stays up in the mountains and never engaged in the battlefield, for me this is not something regular. That's what you said when you were asked what did the BIA do to make you think of it as a dirty and bad part of history. That was your answer, and I am asking you, could you explain to us what you meant with that? What I now understand is that those were soldiers who were not participating in the fight. They were hiding in the mountains.
I
didn't know of their program, and I didn't want to be meddled in their work. They knew what they were doing, but I have said, and I am saying now, that they were part of the Kosovo Liberation Army. They had their own program, their own command, and based on that program, they have undertaken the relevant tactical actions. But when it came to the offensive, those BIA soldiers accommodated in that compound, they joined Brigade 153 in the same front and fought alongside it. In Vitia, I'm arrested.
Mr. Vasselli, you are not answering my question in the sense that I'm asking you to clarify or to tell us some more about the fact that you didn't find it apparently a proper thing to do to stay up in the mountains and never to engage in the battlefield. That was something not regular. And I'm asking you to clarify or to explain some more what you meant with that. And then you're answering me that during the offense they would fight together. But that's not an answer to my question.
I said that they came there as part of a military unit, not to work in the fields. I understand what you are saying. It maybe was a lapse, or maybe the interpretation was not right. Because when I looked at the transcript, I saw that there were major mistakes there. So it may happen. I'm saying it here again. Those were members of the Kosovo Liberation Army, just like me. They had their own command. It was not my duty to follow what they did, and I didn't let anyone to interfere in my work in the Brigade 153, because there are strict rules for that. But nobody can deny the fact that they fought against the occupiers. And that they came there not out in a picnic. They came to convalesce after the actions. Because, as you might know, it's very hard for such units to operate in the cities. The city was surrounded, was encircled. Under the observation of the snipers, a large number of people were killed on their way to Gulag to get accommodation from the Serb soldiers and military. They were afraid even to pass on the streets because Gulag was the best terrain for a kind of recovery, a rest after an operation. You should know that even our food was not like that of a regular army or our logistical base. I said that we fought with arms of the Second World War.
Interrupt you, Mr. Vaseli. I can assure you that the translation is taken care of in a very scrupulous way, so that everything that you have said in Albanian will appear in that way in the English version. So I leave this topic for now here. Could you describe the village of Salih? The village of Salih.
To?
Yes.
Salih do të rruga drejt Zlloshit. Nga
Could you ask the witness to repeat the beginning of his sentence, please?
Vaseli,
Apo doni konfiguracionin e terrenit.
You are requested to repeat the beginning of your answer again, because it could not be translated.
Po?
Yes.
Janë Prishtinë, Keçekull, Prapashti.
From the road from Pristina to Korçol, you can go to Medveja. In Stalov, there is a branch that goes to Slash. You drive 3-4 kilometers before you enter Slash. The house of Admirsop is near the school. It's a neighborhood like you find in every other village with houses adjacent to one another. And then you continue towards Zlashi Vogol. No, in the north, you can go to the road that goes to Vitis, Lvov, Gilan, and then Pristina. This is Slash. It's not a large village. It doesn't have more than 30 houses. It's the center of the village.
And the houses, you said some of them were adjacent, one next to the other. Was there also some distance between the houses? I mean, from the north to the south, from Slash. How much is that in kilometers? And to the east to the west, from the east to the west?
If we draw a circle, the diameter wouldn't be more than 4 kilometers.
And in those...
in both directions, 4 kilometers, not more than that.
Area, the 30 houses were...
Oh.
Yes.
Was Mramor, how far was that situated from Slash?
Mramor Mramor is south of Slash. Mramor is a large village, like a township, I would say. Maybe 3 kilometers from Slash, not more than that.
Say that, or could you say that Slash is a neighborhood from Mramor?
You may. Because before, Mramor was a commune, and Slash was part of that commune.
Okay, that clarifies it. Thank you, Mr. Vasselli. Yes, then we go to this next question. Madam Court Officer, could you pull up from the SPO witness statement with ERN number 069889TRET, part 1, page 14, lines 5 till 11. We are talking about the Golek area, and you said, you're talking about Golak? Yes. There were assault units called Buna. And I wanted to ask you, what do you mean with assault units called Buna? What kind of units were that?
There were no regular military formations. We had military groups. They were called in villages. They were called Buna.
And could you explain to the panel why that area was the worst organized area?
Maybe we were in the periphery, bordering Serbia, and the weapons came to other parts of Kosovo, and less so to our region. We returned many boys and girls who wanted to join because of lack of weapons. Only for that reason, we couldn't provide weapons to them.
This assault unit called Buna, are you also referring to Buna 29?
Yes, they had numbers. They were divided in numbers. All bases were called Buna, with the idea that when we established regular formation, we could create units, companies or battalions or brigades based on military standards.
And I, in your witness statement before the SPO, and that is part 2, page 19, and with the same number I cited before, you talked about Buna 26. Yeah.
And yes.
Was that a so-called assault unit?
They were more defensive groups, I would say. We engaged in assault attacks only when there were no citizens and in the periphery of the area. Otherwise, as I said, we couldn't undertake attacks because of the population present there. Buna 26, the place where they were during the offensive was burned down by the Serbs.
And
On the road between Stalov and Zlosh, right in the middle. On the road axis, from where we call it the dry well, that's where the junction is, and where it turns towards Zlosh, that's where the Buna 26 were stationed.
clarifies your SPO witness statement, because there was a mention to Stelovica, and I wondered if that was
Stalov.
it was
Stalov.
a problem with the interpretation that you have clarified
I
now.
should be Stalov.
It is the name is Stalov.
That is clear. That is clear now.
Let me clarify. There is a junction on the other side. So it's on the other side. It's the road for college.
Okay. But your answer to my question was where Buna 26 was stationed. That was before the village of Slash.
Not near, but right in the middle. It was close to a quarter called the Quarter of the Kotrans, but it is in the region of Stalov.
How far is that from village of Slash?
It could be between 2.5 kilometers, not more. As the crow flies. Because it may be 5 kilometers if you were to take the road, that is.
Okay. Good. Thank you for that, Mr. Vaselli. I will look at my colleagues to see if we need some further questioning. The colleague on my left-hand side will ask you some further questions.
Mr. Vaselli, I just have one question. Today, in the page 60 of the transcript, line 21, you said when speaking about the offensive by the Serbs around 18 April, that we resisted. Could you tell us how many days were you able to resist before you had to withdraw from Slash?
Did it?
2. We did not withdraw from Slash, but we retreated towards the mountains on the outskirts. We did not abandon the region of Slash because the area was such that we were able to mount a defense.
I understand that, but when did you have to retreat from the place you were, from your headquarters? How many days did you resist the offensive of the Serbs before you went up to the mountains? Do you remember that?
We moved the headquarters when the M34 Serbian tank shelled against it and the school, so we were forced to abandon the position.
I understand perfectly that, but do you remember when was that in comparison with the first day of the offensive?
At the end of the day, at the end of the offensive, we weren't able to return, in fact, to our points because they had been razed. They were uninhabitable.
Thank you, Mr. Vaselli.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vaselli. We reached the end of your testimony, and you have shared with us already at an earlier moment today that it's very demanding for you, and we thank you for your the efforts you put in sharing with us your testimony. I'm sure that it will help us to find in our exploration to find the truth. This is it for now.
May I add something?
Depending on what you're going to say, but I will give you the floor, please.
Very briefly. I am grateful for the attitude, the constructive attitude that you have shown, and I have full belief in your search for truth, and I have been sincere in my answers since the very beginning, regardless of the fact that you're the trial panel, these are the prosecutors, and so on and so forth. I will count on you as being friends.
Thank you, Mr. Vasselli. This is the end for this testimony. I wish you a safe journey home. I remind you not to discuss the given testimony with anybody And I will now ask Madame Court Usher to accompany you out of the courtroom.
Shall I take them off? Goodbye.
Thank you, Madame Court Usher. Very well. Before we adjourn this hearing, I will do my regular round to see if there's something the parties and the Victims' Council would like to raise. Mr. Prosecutor?
Nothing from us, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Victims' Council, something?
Nothing from us either. Thanks.
Thank you.
No, Your Honor, not at this moment.
Nothing. Thank you, Defense Counsel. Very well. If there's nothing else to raise, we will resume next week. And then we will hear witness 4849. We will start at 9:30 on Tuesday, the 1st of February. And as always, I thank the translators, the stenographer, the people of the audiovisual booth, and the security for their assistance, and also the parties and the Victims' Council for their attendance. The hearing is adjourned till next week, Tuesday, 9:30.
All rise.